Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Marion County Espresso TV. I'm your host, Steve Woodhouse. Joining me today is Zach Mecham. Zach is seeking the Senate District 19.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes the numbers escape me. I apologize, but yeah, Senate District 19. He's on the Democrat ticket. So, Zach, will you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Zach Mecham. I'm from Pleasantville, Iowa. I've lived in this area my entire life, and I've been really blessed. I'm an entrepreneur. I own my own home, but a lot of people my age haven't been able to. I drove here in my own van, and I get to work for myself. Um, by most standards, people would say that I've been pretty successful. But I think that's particularly exciting when you think about the fact that not only am I disabled, but I grew up poor with parents that were addicted to drugs. And so I'm running really because I got to experience what I think is the American dream. And I got a lot of help in order to make sure that happens. And I just want to make sure Iowans continue to have the support they need to realize their American dream.
And so, what kind of help did you receive from the state that you really want to make sure that you protect?
Medicaid is one of the big ones. I still, to this day, need Medicaid because personal care is not covered on private insurance. And for a long time, I received Social Security when I was going to college, and that helped me. That helped my mom be able to pay our bills when she got out of prison. And so I also received a lot of support from my community as well, family and friends and church. And it would be a mistake to believe that I got here on my own.
Right. And you're an expert in video production as well as website design, and you're also a stand-up comedian that hits the road.
Yes.
So it sounds like you have a pretty diverse background there. So.
Yeah. I think that really just comes from like following my interests. I was someone younger that got bored very easily.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I do now is just finding ways to entertain myself. And it turns out that I'm pretty good at using those skills to entertain others and also apply them to marketing. And so most of my living is made by making videos for clients to pay my bills. And then I make fun videos and tell jokes for the joy of it.
And so I know you want to protect some of the programs, the social programs that helped you along the way and many others. But why is that really the main reason that you're running, or what is the main reason you want to run?
I think that's one of the big reasons that I'm running. But through being politically active, that really started with Medicaid. I've seen a lot of issues in Iowa that I think with the right people and political will can be fixed. I think the monopolies buying up our land and private housing and consolidating small businesses, private equity, all of these are major problems that I also, as a business owner and a homeowner, care a lot about. Water quality, obviously, that's a huge priority. And also, food insecurity, which I think is not talked about enough.
No, I don't think so.
Large portions of rural Iowa are food deserts. In my town that I live in, the only place to buy groceries is Dollar General. And there's no fresh food there.
And of course, the whole food insecurity thing, I know that there are hundreds of families that depend on meals that are being delivered, in Pleasantville and Pella and Knoxville all summer long to help, keep their children fed.
Yeah.
So what kind of solutions would you have to kind of, help the hunger problem?
That's a great question. I think that we are going to have to innovate. But I think A lot of it is giving like our farmers opportunities to diversify their
Mhm.
crops. Most of what we grow here doesn't feed our people. And I think just by diversifying our crops, making sure that people can raise animals without having to build a big hog confinement lot
Mhm.
would allow us to have more localized food infrastructure. I also think that there's opportunities to innovate in terms of like food delivery in ways like partnering with Instacart. I love that Instacart that takes SNAP benefits, for example, but I think there are other ways that we can use already available services like that to make sure people have access to food in their homes.
And have you heard from a lot of folks that are dealing with the causes that you say are really leading you to run? Have you heard a lot from the people about those concerns?
Oh yeah, I think right now a lot of everyone's concerned about the price of food, for example. Right, a lot of this is a supply and demand issue.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's worried about water. Um, and another thing a lot of people are hearing when I talk is public education. And I am someone who probably would not have been accepted into a private school. So that's another issue that I'm hearing about that's very important to me. And I'm proud to say that I'm endorsed by the teachers union because,
That'd be the Iowa State Education Association.
yep, the ISEA.
Mm-hmm. And so, what would you propose to fix public education? I don't really know if it needs fixed, but what would be your top priority as far as like reforming and reshaping things to maybe get test scores up and more achievement from the students?
I think if you look at like educational research, we know what works, right? Smaller class sizes
Mm-hmm.
are better. Um, I'm a big advocate in spending less money in our public schools on like one-to-one laptops and instead putting that into faculty and staff. Teacher pay is a big deal. Um, and we also need to like make sure that the types of special education funding required to support students that otherwise wouldn't be successful are still there, and making sure that like AEAs
Mm-hmm.
are funded.
Yeah, I was looking on your website earlier today before we sat down. And you were talking about the importance of the AEAs and the um, resources. That's the word I'm looking for. Resources that they supply local schools that schools might not be able to have on their own. What would you change about the restructuring of the AEAs now to where the schools are given those dollars instead of the dollars going directly to the AEA?
Um, I think that having it go to the AEA was really beneficial. I think that if you talk to teachers now, a lot of them are finding it harder to support their students with special education needs. And, leaving it to the schools to find their own vendors is not that easy
Mm-hmm.
when we live in such rural areas.
Right.
Like a Des Moines public can hire their own speech language
Mm-hmm.
pathologist and have enough work for them. Pleasantville schools can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the AEAs worked really well. So while I can understand why a Johnston school might want that cash in their pocket, I think that giving that money, taking that money away,
Mm-hmm.
is hurting rural areas in particular.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's hard for rural schools, and your district is fairly rural. I mean, outside Pella and Pleasantville. But what do you think we can do, to recruit teachers as well as doctors and so forth to more rural Iowa areas?
Yeah. I think, obviously pay.
Mm-hmm.
Student loan forgiveness. People are graduating with a lot of debt. And I'd be okay with even like, as long as they're working towards their qualifications and the superintendents are doing their due diligence to make sure they're good, is doing like temporary licensures to get teachers in these classrooms. But I also think like there's some social, cultural things that we need to do. Teachers don't get the respect that they deserve. And I know that having been one for about 5 minutes. Um, but yeah, I think really it comes down to we know what works. When teachers are compensated well, they'll stay.
And the whole rural thing is something else I want to touch on. Obviously, our legislative districts are divided based on population, and clearly, the bigger cities and more urban areas are going to have more representation just because of that. How do you think that you and others from rural Iowa that are elected to the Senate, how can you guys fight to protect rural Iowa as far as our needs for roads and public safety and things like that we might not get our fair share of?
That's a great question, and I think it's first off realizing that without rural Iowa, Des Moines and Iowa City and Davenport wouldn't work, right? And I think what's great about being a representative is you get to be a voice for the people you represent, whether it's like an identity that you represent. Like I admire Josh Turek because he was always a voice for people like me, and I aspire to be that. And as someone that grew up in the country, that was an FFA kid, that always knew farmers, was always fishing, hunting, cares about our land and our environment, I will always be representing people like me when I go to the Capitol, because that's who I am.
So, what if most of your fellow Democrats, are more strongly supportive of the urban ideas? Are you someone that will stand for yourself and for your district against your own party, even if that's necessary?
Absolutely, 100%. I think if you look at my voter registration history, I used to be a Republican, and then I went independent for a good long time. I became a Democrat to run for this office because you need support. And when I look at most of my values, it made more sense to run Democrat. But at the end of the day, I think for myself. I have always thought for myself, and I can't be swayed based on what's popular or unpopular. And ultimately, one of my strongest values is integrity. And so I would rather lose this election or a re-election with integrity than compromise on my own values and beliefs and win.
And so I know that as a former Republican, I'm sure that you realize the problem that has become spending at the state level. What would you propose to maybe reduce spending or eliminate waste? What would you do at the state level to help with that?
That's a great question. I think a lot of it is an education issue. And I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on things that I'm not.
Right.
But I know Medicaid, to give you an example. And so for my personal care, I'll give you an example of just completely counterintuitive policy. If I want to hire and train my own caregivers, I can do that under a program called the Consumer Choices Option.
Consumer choices option, in case you missed that.
It's either that or going through an agency. An agency upcharges, right? So they'll pay their people $12 to $15 an hour, but they're charging Medicaid $30 an hour, right?
Yeah, and I've done stories about pharmacy benefit managers doing the same thing.
Exactly. And so when I hire under CCO, they cap caregiver pay at $9 an hour. where's the rest of that money going? And if it's cheaper for me to pay a caregiver even $17 an hour than go through an agency, why wouldn't you want me to have that option? That saves money for Medicaid. And this is why institutionalization is more expensive as well, is because somebody like me, I don't need 24-hour care. I can also pay for my own housing and food. And so it's cheaper to give me the few hours of personal care that I need and then leave me alone. However, if I wanted to go into a nursing home, they'd welcome me with open arms tomorrow. And they are fighting me tooth and nail for the few hours of services that I need. I'm willing to bet this type of backwards policy is rampant in every single program in the state. And I think that if we had legislators, enough of them, that would just listen to the people dealing with these issues, we would be able to right a lot of these wrongs and not lose inequality.
And as someone who's been on Medicaid for a while, what kind of changes have you seen since the state switched to managed care organizations?
Yes. Managed care organizations are increasing denials a lot. And that's hurt a lot of people. Every time you want to get something, odds are they're going to deny you first, and you have to appeal. And a lot of these administrative processes have a cost, right?
Yeah.
So the role of a good public service is that the administrative cost as low as humanly possible, so that way the most money possible goes to the people who need it. Private insurance companies aren't incentivized to do that.
Right.
Because they want to keep as much money as they can for themselves. And so what we've seen is that this state's Medicaid costs have gone up under Medicaid privatization, in spite of everyone thinking that they would go down.
Yeah, they've definitely gone up. I've looked at the numbers. It's staggering.
Yeah.
But as far as, if you get elected, there's always a big push for social issues, like everybody wants their own ideology implemented, especially the Republicans the past 4 years. I'm sorry I have to say it. But what would your take be on that? Like, all of a sudden all the talk became about social programs and advancing agendas that are not really based on serving the people, but rather just imposing your will. What would your take on that be?
Well, as an Iowan, a rural Iowan, I've always kind of wanted to be left alone.
Yeah.
When it comes to my own personal beliefs and ideologies. Left or right, I don't want to enforce any ideologies on you. That's why I'm a firm believer in the separation of church and state. And as a person of faith, as a Christian, I believe that protects my faith from being co-opted by people with agendas. And so, I don't care left, right. I don't care if your agenda is Christian or what, or name it, right? I want that out of government. I don't think it belongs there.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, then again, I phrase that, but it might be like the Des Moines media and the larger media outlets putting such a focus on those things. It seems like that's usually what they accomplish. But are there any other priorities that you would have as far as policies and so forth that you'd like to see implemented?
I think I've covered most of them. It's protecting Medicaid, making sure Iowans have access to healthy food and clean water, making sure we have the best public education in the country, and supporting public education to make sure that that's true. And just fighting for economic fairness for Iowans, making sure that big businesses and corporate lobbies can't bully the little guy.
And I should follow this up too for your Medicaid discussion. What do you think about work requirements for Medicaid? You know, for folks that are able to work, you know, that receive like SNAP benefits and Medicaid. Do you think there should be work requirements if they're able to work?
I think that I want to start by saying that I think that if you can work, and out there, people with disabilities, if you think you can't work, talk to me. I'll bet you can on some level, and it's so rewarding. So I want to start there. But what we've seen in states that have already implemented these work requirements is that it attributes to a lot of attrition for people on Medicaid. Because Medicaid, anybody that's ever been on it knows, is like a lot of paperwork.
Yes, it is.
And it's very confusing. And it's a big challenge. So what we're seeing is people that actually need these Medicaid are losing it, not because they're not working, but because they can't keep up with the paperwork requirements. And so for that reason, I'm against Medicaid work requirements. I believe in the principles, but I want to make sure that the people that need Medicaid are getting it.
And if you don't mind me asking, you say your parents were drug addicts,
Yes.
and they were able to recover. And I see it like constantly following the Marion County Sheriff's reports and the police reports. You know, we still see substance abuse and mental health are still problems.
Yeah.
What would your approach be to you know, helping people recover from addiction or stopping folks from getting addicted?
That's a great question. I think that always comes from interventions before the police are involved. I have so much respect for our law enforcement officers. And on a personal note, I've called law enforcement officers out to my house to deal with family members that were addicted. And they did great. They were respectful. No one was like treated, you know, there was no police brutality. It was great. And in a really hard time, you really appreciate that. But what's sad is that that situation had to make it to that point. And it's because if that family member had wanted to check themselves in to a treatment facility, there wouldn't have been a bed available to them. Until someone is suicidal, there's nowhere to put them. And I think we're doing a great disservice to all of the people of Iowa when we're throwing these people in jail, and it's costing us money. But ultimately, we're doing a disservice to these great men and women who want to do better and just need a little help. And so I want to make sure that we're investing to have beds and treatment facilities for these people, because we're paying for it now, whether you realize it or not. We're paying for it now. And so we might as well put it towards recovery.
So Zach, we've covered a lot of bases here, but is there anything more you want us to be sure to mention, or anything else you want to tell the folks that are watching or reading this?
I just want to say that I don't care where you sit on the political spectrum. We all want what's best for our neighbors and Iowans. And I really, if you're still here, I appreciate you hearing me out. And I'd love to talk to you more. Find me online, and we'll keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming in, Zach. It's been great talking to you again.
Great talking to you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining us.